in hindsight? Do you think school closures were a mistake?
We were always very clear that school closures had to be absolutely the last resort. We never wanted to see schools closed.
It is sadly, tragically inevitable that schools will have to close, and therefore they should be part of the national restrictions that should come into force, or that closure should be part of the national restrictions that come into force as quickly as possible.
When would you propose they close?
So I think that these national restrictions need to be put in place as soon as possible.
You say that you thought it should be a last resort, and you didn't want schools to close. But I mean, your then Shadow Education Secretary Rebecca Long-Bailey was saying in May and June that the government must commit to not opening schools unless they meet 5 specific tests. She said that twice. She was very adamant that schools should stay closed unless they could prove otherwise.
You know, we always wanted schools to stay open where they could.
So primary school should close tomorrow, under your plan?
The question isn't whether just schools close. We need a national set of restrictions. We need to go back to the spirit of March of stay at home.
There was a period at the start of the pandemic in 2020 where we knew less about the virus, and there was a concern about infection rates in schools. But also, by the way, it was also that public sector workers, the teachers and so on who run the schools, they were obviously getting sick and were taking time off. So there was a practical issue around schools staying open at that point. But throughout the whole of that process, I think Keir Starmer, and he actually got some criticism from people, he was saying, what's the plan to get schools reopened? And then when we had the Delta surge, Keir Starmer actually on this show, or the precursor show, the Mar show, was saying that we need to be supporting schools to stay open as long as possible.